to the Dream Discover Do podcast. My name is Kaden Nelson. I am the Marketing and Public Relations Assistant, and today I am with...
Hi, I'm Elijah. I work in the Circulation Department at the Broadmoor branch, and I've been with SML for about a year now.
Hi, I'm Salem. I work in the Youth Services Department at the Cedar Grove Line Avenue branch, and I've been with SML for about 8 months, I think.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Edwin. I am from the Moortown branch. I work in the Youth Services Department, and I have been with SML since November 2021.
Awesome. And then today we are going to talk about Severance from Apple TV. It is a show that was released in 2022, directed by
Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller, that's his name.
Starring Adam Scott.
Yep, and with Adam Scott, and do y'all remember the other actors' names?
I so meant to write that down because I was
did
like,
too.
I know it's going to come up.
Brie Larson. Love of my life.
Brie Larson?
Brie Larson.
She's in there?
Wait, no, that's, nope.
No.
I was about to say that.
Definitely not.
No.
Captain Marvel is
I knew
not.
it was something with the B. B.
Who does she play?
Helly.
Helly. Oh.
Gosh, what is her name?
Hold on.
Britt Lauer.
Britt Lauer.
Britt
See,
Lauer.
another
Britt Lauer,
BL.
yes.
BL. Britt Lauer.
And
Another
also,
love of my life.
what's his name makes an appearance in the second episode?
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken, yes.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
was
Legend.
an awesome surprise.
Which we can thank him for SML having DVDs because he did not own Apple TV Plus, and so they were like, okay, well, we'll make you a DVD, and then they just rolled
Really?
it out. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's how I'm watching it right now, physical and DVD.
exactly.
Thank
That
And you can too if you check it out at your local Shreve Memorial Library.
branch.
Exactly.
And
There's the plug.
we do have a copy at Broadmoor. I did see it circulate the other day, so.
We have one at Cedar Grove as well. It's been on display, and I think it's currently checked out.
Very nice.
So make sure to put it on hold if you want to watch Severance Season 1 with us.
Especially after this comes out, it's going to be flying off the shelves.
Oh, yeah.
I know- I
We're so
know that.
popular.
Yes.
That's it.
We're not going to be able to keep them
Trendsetters.
on there.
But yes, so just a heads up. This is definitely going to be spoilers for the first episode, maybe second, maybe even third. We'll see.
There's a lot packed into those
There's
episodes. We'll
a
see how
lot.
far we get
Each
into this episode.
is an hour long. Well, just about like 45 minutes
Yeah.
to 50.
It's at least, like you said, at least 50 minutes.
Yeah.
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 But they fly.
They do.
Like,
They-
those
yeah.
minutes fly by.
The timing is and pacing is excellent.
It's
Exactly.
it's incredible. You don't feel like you've sat there and watched like something that's akin to like
Yeah.
movie length. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's. I guess we should just get into what the show's about. Maybe like a short synopsis, if anybody wants to do that.
Yeah, sure. So Severance takes place in. People think it's an alternate timeline. There's a lot of theories because it doesn't really talk about like where they are. But people think it's an alternate timeline because if you pay attention to like the cars and the technology they use, it's a little bit of like a mixture of different eras, so no one really knows when it is. But there's a procedure called severance, and that is where you can sever your brain so that when you go to work, you don't have any memories of it, and when you leave work, your work self has no memories of the outside life.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And it follows Mark, who is
Mark S.
What was his actor's name? I completely
Adam
forgot.
Scott.
Adam Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Mark seems to be like the main character
Yep.
of the show. But what's interesting is actually how the first episode starts.
Ooh,
I was just about
Yes.
to say
the
because
opening scene.
we're
Yeah.
introduced to Helly and we don't
Yes.
even know her character when we're first like watching the show, and I think it's interesting the way they decided to open with that because it's almost like we're experiencing exactly
Yes.
what we would experience if we were to undergo the severance procedure. So I thought that was really cool that they opened it introducing her, even though she's necessarily not our main character. So I did really enjoy that about the first episode too.
Also, if you like color theory,
Yes.
this is the show for you.
Yep.
Like,
I even
it's
wrote that down.
absolutely incredible. Each department is signified by different colors. So the main department that we see where Mark S., Helly R., Dylan G., and Irving B., baby girl Irving, I love him so
I love
much.
Irving.
Oh my gosh. But they work in the macrodata refining division or department, and their color is blue. But we see a lot of green around them, and later, no, that's in a different episode, never mind. But when we see Mark S. on the outside, he's always wearing red, and red is always like what is it? Symbolizes like freedom, and blue is kind of supposed to be like more like business, studious, that kind of vibe. So it's very interesting to see that. Also, did y'all notice his fish tank at Mark S.'s house, Audi Mark?
I did not.
Yes, I did.
So he has a fish tank that is divided into two sections. There's a blue betta fish and a red betta fish, and it's supposed to symbolize like his outer self or his work self and his like non-work self. Like my partner watching it with me last night pointed out that there was a scene where the red fish, I think it was the red fish, was swimming around and the blue fish was asleep. That was very interesting.
That is very
Very,
interesting.
very cool.
Very interesting analogy there, because we were talking about how this show relates to modern day society, and not trying to get too controversial with it, but you just you explaining that the blue fish is asleep or steady in one place while red fish is circulating and more movable, more active. It just goes to show, just even that small little example, that small little allegory right there, how whether corporate, religious, social, some people choose to just be in that status quo for comfort, while other ones dare to go around. No, I'm gonna venture out. It's something more to this. So that's which is the huge premise of the show.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And I think how the show opens is actually super interesting, because the first quote we get is, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's from a disembodied Mark that we haven't even met yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Talking to Helly, who's on a like coffin-shaped,
Yes.
conference desk. And I think that was such a cool, cold open right there.
It's
because-
even surrounded by green, like lowering a casket down into the
Oh
earth.
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's true. I didn't notice that.
And just talking about the color too, because Helly's wearing all blue, and maybe I'm reaching here. The hair color is red.
Ooh, no, that's actually a thing.
Now,
That's actually a thing.
notice. Okay, you're conformed in blue, but hair color wise, no, I'm
Yes.
defiant. What is this? She's already in this position. Okay, where am I? Like you say, the symbolism of a casket-like desk, and you're laid out on it.
Yeah.
All the business, everything that you do, or how we own you to a certain degree. You're laid out right here, and
Yeah.
you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I'm not for this. I'm not gonna stay restrained to this.
Right. Especially given like Helly's character, because she arguably is probably one of the most quote unquote difficult people they've had to integrate into Lumen, and she resists it like from the very beginning.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
she is trying to get that doorknob open and get inside the room
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
we don't know yet, but Mark and Irving are both in there trying to interview her to see if the severance procedure was successful. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting that you pointed out her hair is red, because I think that does, I guess, symbolize a little bit, like you said, that she's not going to mold exactly the way that they want her to.
The body is conformed to the agenda, but the mind is still like, whoa,
Yeah.
no, hold up.
Right.
And I'm like, no.
Exactly. And then another thing I noticed on the first episode is after that scene with Helly, we get the scene with Mark where he's just about to go into work. And the first time we see him, he's literally crying in his car
Yeah.
about to go into work. And I think that's interesting given what we learn about Mark later in the show. Just that he, not to get too ahead, but he did the procedure to try to escape something he's dealing with. And just the fact that,
Very unhealthy.
right. And you might be escaping it for like 8 hours a day, but eventually you're always gonna go back to
Yeah.
that reality you don't want to be in.
Yeah, it's always going to catch up with you.
Right. And so I thought that was interesting too. That's the first time we're ever introduced to him.
Yeah.
He's already like in a very bad place, obviously. So.
And then also when he goes down the elevator into the severed floor, like we have this transition where it like, I can't even remember. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very weird and unsettling.
Yeah, it kind of like it does like this. I forget what it's called, like perspective shot on him
Yeah.
almost, and like you can tell like when the transition happens.
Yeah, like when he switches.
Yes,
or
when
whatever.
he goes into like his innie, as they
Yes.
call it. Yeah.
Yeah, but when we see him walking down these halls, which first of all, when we see like, okay, so I have to gather my thoughts. They're a little jumbled. So he gets off of the elevator and goes into the severed floor and is going through this maze of hallways to get to his department where he works, which we don't see anybody else at this time when he's down here. They also don't know how many people that they do work with down here, which is very interesting. But the first thing that I thought of when I saw these hallways is like those mazes that lab rats run.
Yeah.
That was what I thought of. But when he's walking, Mark finds a crumpled up tissue that Outie Mark was using in his pocket, and he's like, looks at it and is like, that's weird, and throws it away, and then immediately starts sniffling. And I remember the first time that I watched that, I laughed and was like, bet you wish that you didn't throw that away.
Had that tissue right
Yeah.
there. But no, I think it's interesting, like you said, how Lumen is laid out too, because every aspect of their job is so unwelcoming and
Yeah.
so cold. Like it's meant to
Very sterile.
Right, it's meant to disorient you. It's meant to not make you feel comfortable. Like literally through every aspect that we see of their job. So, and I think that environment even transcends out of Lumen itself. Like every time we're in like the outside world, it's very cold.
Yes.
It's very stoic. It's very rainy. Like the environment itself is just set up to be very cold and
Yeah,
like
bleak.
bleak. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how would y'all describe the four main MDR characters? Helly, Mark, Dylan, and Irving. We're just all the characters.
With Mark, I'll start with him. From watching him and remembering the scene where him and Helly were speaking with each other, and he's asking her the questions and things of that nature. He's looking towards the camera, like, okay,
Ooh, yeah.
we have to do this. I'm here to do a job. I feel your pain. He later on in the episode explains, I was wanting to do the same thing. I wanted to unalive the person that I was talking with, on the speaker. Which I believe a lot of people in this day and time can relate to, because we're in the system that we're in. We have to take it to the chin, put on that mask, that smile, grit the teeth. Oh, I don't want to do this, but I got bills to pay, and the wage is not going up, and I feel your pain, but we have to do this. Okay, let's look at the paper.
Use that customer service voice.
Use that customer service and just be completely in order. However, more and more you could see that it's torturing him on the inside, as he has that shell. He has that outer shell doing his job, even being physically assaulted by Helly at one point when she threw the speaker. Clocked him upside the head. But even with that, he still is trying to keep himself together. But more and more as I was watching the episodes, he's venturing off more. Okay, it's more than this.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I have to kind of more so break out of this conformity, to this severance that I've been wrapped in, and see, just I'm more than just this office worker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm more than just this company guy. And him being introduced to Helly in that way, Helly is bringing that out because she's still not
Right.
conformed or locked in yet.
Yeah.
And so it's triggering something to him. It's almost and I know I'm going to land my plane on this one, the organizational or societal versus like the spiritual.
Ooh, yes.
So like your the corporate person in you, the business person in you is, I have to do this, that, and the third, so we get the job done, boom, boom, boom. But once you're overloaded in that business perspective, there's eventually gonna become a burnout, and that spiritual is gonna be like, look,
Yeah.
you gotta have time for yourself.
Right.
If not, you're just an empty shell. You're already extinct, for lack of a better word. So
I'm so upset that like we can't talk about the rest of season 1 or even season 2, because that, like what you're saying, is so interesting and fascinating, knowing everything else. Also for background, Caden and I are up to date, and then Edwin and Elijah have, watched like the first three or four episodes.
Literally,
Yeah.
I'm literally about to start episode 4. So
hearing y'all's theories and like your thoughts and everything, and like seeing which ones are like actually like connecting and everything, I'm like,
Can I ask one quick question? Who do y'all think Helly R is? Like her, her Audi. What do y'all think she's like? Just from the first 3 episodes.
just given, because we see her briefly, and I can't remember if this is I don't think this episode 1, maybe it's episode 2, but when she's shown like her video to try to like explain why she's there, I just think that she is almost like completely different than how she is inside of the office, like, and I think that's just really interesting, just given like how excited she seemed to be about this position and this role, and then just the complete juxtaposition of that when she's actually in there and doing all these things. So I don't know exactly what I think she would be doing outside of work, or like what she like what her personality type is, but I just think it's just from the little bit we've seen, I think it's setting up to be a stark contrast to what we're seeing in Lumen. So
I would say for Helly, from what I saw, like you stated, she is eager at the position. She's ready for it. But I also think her Audi they're very similar. Like when you hear about the other characters' Audis, they're drastically different. But with her, she's still trying to conform into this system, and there might not be too many differences. And now she's kind of stuck. Okay, what's going on here? Why am I in this position right now?
Well, to be fair, we don't know anything about, at this point in the first 3 episodes, we don't know anything about Irving or Dylan's Audis. We only know stuff about mostly Mark and just like a tad bit of Helly's Audi. We know their some of their theories that they talk about. Like I think, what was it? Dylan. Dylan is so funny. I love him. His theory is about like him being like a bodybuilder or whatever.
And I'll be honest, I have such an unpopular opinion, especially since like my boyfriend's like, oh, you'll love Dylan later on, but I'm so annoyed by him and put off by him the first like 3 episodes, because I feel like, just speaking about their characters, I feel like he's like obviously the least serious one. Like he doesn't really, I don't think he really thinks about this job, at least for now, in the same way that other people think about it. Like obviously we see Mark kind of questioning why Petey was fired, and he's like kind of thinking more into it, and obviously they always cut him off. They stop him from like delving into that thought process,
while also dealing with the pressure of like having to assume Petey's position, and like he was saying, like he's afraid that he's not going to do as good of a job.
Right. And then just Dylan's like saying the most preposterous things. Like he thinks like, oh, we're in the sea now and we're sending out codes for like eels and we're gonna kill the eels. And it's like he's just obviously like he's the comedic relief, I think, right
Oh, yeah,
now for
absolutely.
sure. In this really like you said, stoic,
Yeah.
very rigid, scary environment. And so
I also want to add, because me and Kaden talked about this a while back, it was like a couple of months ago. Shout out to Ben Stiller, him being, I know we're hearing something in the background. Shout out to Ben Stiller, who's the director. He also directed one of my favorite movies, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which really also ties into this same type of storyline because Walter was in that. You also see it in the direction of how he's filming the scenes, very cold, very stoic, but he's actually taking this risk now of being more colorful and bombastic and going on an adventure. So that was just a little thing I wanted to add in. Like that, I'm seeing, and plus a lot of the same actors. Adam Scott is in Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh, really?
oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's a lot of the same actors. If you ever watch that movie, I think it was 2013 when it was released. You'll see a lot of comparisons. When I first saw the first 3 episodes, I'm like, oh yeah, I see like Walter Mitty kind of in the same vein.
Right.
If you ever watch just some clips of that, it's like, yeah, he went to the same vein with that, cinematically.
Yeah. Irving as a character is also very interesting because he takes all of this so seriously.
Yes.
And you get you get this vibe of this company for some people is not just a company, it's not just work, it's almost like a religious not entity, like
They just
organization, or
right,
kind
and
of
they
like, yeah,
they have that same devotion
Yes,
to the company
devotion,
that
yeah.
you would with like a religion or any
Yeah.
kind of moral compass you live your life with.
yeah,
And yeah, so like you're saying, Irving is definitely out of all of them the one who wants to follow the rules to
Yes.
a T. But he does it in a way that isn't even necessarily abrasive. Like you
Yeah.
can tell that he still cares about everyone in there.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone like Miss Cobell, who in my opinion I'm like, she's evil. But
oh, but I love her so much.
she is very she's that girl, I'll
Yeah.
say. But yeah, so Irving is definitely, like you said, the most rigid one
Yes.
in terms of like we're following policy, this is the rules. Yeah.
In fact, we can definitely see that dynamic between Irving, Mark, and Dylan before Helly arrives, when Mr. Milchick walks in, who is their kind of like their supervisor, but he's under Miss Cobell. So he walks in, and the composition of the shot was very cool too, because you have Irving in the middle, and he like shoots up and is like at attention, giving Mr. Milchick or showing Mr. Milchick respect, and then you see to the side both Mark and Dylan just kind of like leaning back in their chairs, like peeking out, like not really caring all that much, just be like, okay, like what do you want?
Right.
And Irving being like, how can I help you?
And then Mr. Milkchick is like kind of interesting too.
Oh, yes.
Because he puts on like this facade of being like this like
happy
and like very much like
It's an unnerving kind of smile.
Like, oh, those melons aren't getting any tastier.
Uh-huh.
Like, you know, like he puts on like this, I don't know, like this happy-go-lucky persona, but then there's like an underlying like sinister
yeah.
nature, like, and again,
compensating putting that mask on, you starting to see, hold
Yeah.
up, when
Right.
they say discernment, like something's not right. Why are you so
exactly.
I don't know.
Ooh, also the people being, or the people in charge at Lumen, the people in charge of the severed floor and everything, treating the Annies like children.
Yes.
Like you see, especially in their little, so when Helly joins them, they're like, okay, like let's play like a little game to get to know one another, and they have this dodgeball, like a rubber gymnastics ball thing, and they pass it around and like share something about them, like I think Irving said, and something about me is I've memorized all 9 principles. And Mr. Milchick goes, which one's your favorite? And Irving's like, all 9? Like very much seeking the approval, like in a classroom with the children. And then when Mark starts talking about how he broke protocol because he took away the PD's photos or whatever because it was making him sad and like upset. And then he starts to explore that and in this group, and he's talking about how, well, we don't know anything, like we don't know what happened to PD. He could be dead in a ditch somewhere. And Mr. Milchick cuts him off, and you see him like cower or turn into his body and like put his head down, trying not to cry, and just nodding his head like he's been scolded, like a child.
Right.
It's so fascinating.
And then it's fascinating to me how like any slight deviation from like just complete obedience and like just taking anything Lumen tells you as fact is completely shut down. It's
Yeah.
diverted. Like even Mr. Milkchick tells them like death is something that happens outside of here, and for that you should be grateful.
Yeah.
Like you should have gratitude. And then it's like, I don't know, it's just crazy how they're not even allowed to question anything.
They're not
at
allowed to
all.
think for themselves.
Yeah, no, they
because
can't.
if you start thinking for yourself, that's dangerous.
Right.
And then you'll realize that the situation is not okay, and then you'll rebel.
Right.
So of course you're not allowed to think for yourself. And it's
So
it's interesting.
I would love to like to kind of mirror that with like with Rickon and his friends that have like the dinnerless dinner.
The dinnerless dinner.
Oh my, okay. I'm just gonna say it. I don't see what Mark's sister sees in Rickon. I don't.
Money.
And I'm like,
Money.
because even in like, and you can kind of, I know this is kind of like not important, but you just see how she acts within that dynamic,
Yeah.
and then how she acts with Mark, and
Yeah.
it's like they make jokes about like,
About how pretentious they
yes,
are.
and like, and then another thing, when that discussion is happening, they're just all like Rickon lets it be known that he's done the severance procedure, and then all of them kind of do like this,
Yeah.
ooh,
Like he outs him.
Right.
Without his consent. And
Right.
and then Mark's sister, what's her name again?
I don't remember, to be very honest.
Devin.
Devin, okay.
Mark's sister Devin immediately sticks up for him and is like, "Hey, hun, like that's something that, you know, he should decide who to tell."
Right.
And Rickon's like, "Oh, yes, I'm so sorry." And then I love how he goes, "Well, you know what? Forget all that. The point is, Mark made this decision, this horrible, like, ethically, morally wrong decision, but you know what? We stand by you, Mark. Like, we support you, even though we think that what you did was horrible."
Right.
Just like very patronizing, you know, like just talking, yeah.
And then not only that, but they're asking him questions about this procedure, right? Like they're asking
Yeah.
him like, you know, like what's
it
it feel like?
like,
And then they don't even let him answer. That one guy answers
Yeah.
all of his questions, is like, well,
Patton.
yeah, I can imagine that there's a moral dilemma or like other stuff, and it's like you're almost looking at him as like this, I don't know, like this they're othering him.
A property instead of
Yes.
a person.
Yes.
It's just like, yeah, because that's one thing I've always kind of. I would say when I noticed that, it kind of reminds you, like, say, when you talk about the bullying or trying to just incorporate somebody into
Yeah.
society. Oh, I can speak for them. I know exactly what
Yes.
they're about to say. And I'm like, you don't know
Yeah.
my testimony. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through. You don't speak for me just because you hear something about a particular system
Yes.
doesn't mean I am that
Right.
conformed system. So.
And then Mark is kind of, in my mind, rightfully, to a certain extent, defensive about
Oh,
the
yeah.
procedure because, like I said, we don't really learn a lot about this from first episode, except for the conversation him and Devin have after the dinner. But, you know, to him, it's genuinely helping him in his mind. Like, it's helping him in this very profound way. Like, he's able to get through each day because of it. So when people question or look at it as this, like you said, very morally gray thing, he takes deep offense to
Yeah.
that. And so, but
Now, we here at SML, we do not approve of, or we do not advocate for pushing down your problems and not dealing with them and avoiding them.
Right.
This is what he did was not necessarily healthy. So don't necessarily follow his example, but he's an adult. He can do what he wants, whatever. And, like having others treat him like a child based on this very personal decision that he's made. It's,
Yeah. And just speaking about the conversation that him and Devin have after the dinner, like Devin makes a quote, and I wrote it down because I agree. And like you said, it's to the point of like this procedure maybe isn't helping Mark as much as he thinks it is. Forgetting about her for 8 hours a day is not the same as healing.
Yes.
Like and then we see in his outy life, he's also not healing either. He drinks day in and day out. He watches TV and goes and knocks himself out until he has to get up and go to Lumen.
Yeah.
So it's like, in his mind, that might be helpful to him just from his whatever he's dealing with that we're not sure of at this moment. But it's really not in the long run benefiting him at all.
I think he's confusing numbing the pain with healing from the pain, and those are not
You're not correcting.
necessarily the same. They don't necessarily match up. But yeah.
So I think we're getting pretty close to time.
Aw.
I know, it's very unfortunate. But I think we should talk about one last thing,
Okay.
because I think it's probably like the key quote in the first three episodes. It's a little paraphrased. Oh shoot, I just lost my note. Okay, here it is. So Irving says whenever they're in like the perpetuity wing, he says it's an unnatural state for a person to have no history. History makes us someone, gives us context. Waking up on that table, I was shapeless. I think that's an incredible quote for the first, especially season,
Yes.
for the first 3 episodes. I think like we're exactly seeing what he means by somebody not having any history. Like, how does that make you?
I think it's very interesting considering the fact that I think that like he saw the history of Lumen the company, and because he was looking for some kind of purpose, that's why he has latched on so tightly. And I think that is a big reason why he is so strong in his beliefs about Lumen and Kier and everything. But I do think that he has confused him as a person, an individual having history versus like taking on this belief and the history of this company.
Right.
Especially like considering you have in the perpetuity wings, like you have these statues, like these incredible figures of this past CEOs. It very much feels like this is what you should strive to be, but you're never going to like mount up to that. That's kind of like what that reads to me as. So it's very interesting that he's like, yeah, like you can't be someone without history and experience and all of this stuff, but also like you were created in the middle of your life, at the innie. You were created in the middle of your outies life with technically no history, nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that really speaks into like the moral dilemma that this show poses, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the opening quote that we were talking about earlier, "Who are you?" That's kind of the theme of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Figuring out like who you are as a person, what you stand for and believe in, and how far you're willing to fight for that.
Yeah.
And then I think another interesting piece of dialogue that happens in that whole sequence is, like you said, Irving really does take on like Lumen's history and
Yeah.
the Egan's history as his own, because he even tells Helly like, now you're a part of like this grand history.
Yeah.
And he's like, look at all these smiles of the people we've helped, and like you said, it's misguided almost, because that's not necessarily your history.
Yeah.
That's right.
You've come into something and it's the only thing you know, so you want to latch onto it, but that necessarily isn't who you are.
Right.
And then another quote that I wrote down, because it kind of like, first watch I didn't really catch it, but second watch it kind of gave me chills, because when they're walking into like the replica of
Kier's home.
Helly says Jesus, like when they walk in, like seeing like how massive and just ornate it is, and then he responds, no, Kier.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I said, the religious undertones are like coming in again, because it's
Very,
like
very interesting.
you genuinely view these people as so higher than you, and
Yeah.
so like just the level of devotion again is very deep
Yeah.
within this company. So
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think that is all the time that we have.
Ah.
I know this
Man.
has been a great conversation, but I'm going to give it to y'all, since y'all are at 3 different branches. If there's any, things coming up that you want to quickly mention, or any sort of programs that y'all have on the calendar you want to shout
I'm not
out?
sure when this is gonna come out, but at Cedar Grove we have story times every, let's see, I think first and third Wednesdays of the month. We have elementary school aged programs, teen age programs, stuff for adults. Don't forget to sign up for summer reading, 'cause that's coming
Yes.
up really quick. Come visit us at Art Break. Come see everyone's amazing art pieces and all of the performers that will be there. That's all I can think of. What about y'all?
and then hopping off of summer reading, the Broadmoor branch is actually going to be hosting like a summer reading program. We call it a shindig. So we're going to be able to, we're going to have games, activities. They're going to be
Awesome.
able to register you for summer reading if you would be interested. That's going to be happening on Wednesday, May 28th, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So please come out. It's going to be really fun. And then on last podcast episode, we mentioned the, now it's leaving me.
Oh, the
Children's Book Festival.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what
That'll be May 3rd, I
Yes,
believe.
and
Yep,
please
coming up quick.
come to
Yeah.
that. That's going to be awesome.
That's going to be at the LSUS campus.
Yes, and Rachel Renee Russell is going to be.
Yes, and her daughter Nikki.
Yes, her daughter Nikki's going to be there. So if you're a fan of the Dork Diary books, please come to those. But yeah, and then I don't know if I know some of the other branches have this, but we do have a seed library. So if you're ever interested in any of that summer gardening, we
have
do have
spices at
yes,
Cedar Grove. Yeah.
free seeds. So come and get those too. But yeah.
Nice.
Oh, also with summer reading, we are doing new prizes and stuff this year. So like lots of raffle prizes for all ages, kids, teens, and adults, I believe. So yeah, come visit your local library to find out more about that. You got anything, Anthony?
Well, over here at the Moortown branch, today we actually have a Money Mania program. So Money Mania, this week, if you're a wrestling fan like me, WrestleMania is going on. And so it's also Financial Literacy Month. So I said, well, hey, why don't we have a program teaching you money management as well as engage with wrestling? So they have a GM mode that we're going to show the kids how to budget and manage a show. So that's one thing we have. Every Monday and every Friday we have game days. So on Monday we have Mo, which we have video games, board games, coloring, crafts, activities, just a big room of variety here in the meeting room from 3 to 4. And then game days, 3 to 4, here in the meeting room on Fridays. So that's what we have. And also sign up for summer reading.
Awesome. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
Dream discovered through Shreve Memorial Library and you.